wealth of Africa is being drained out of Africa by a people whose greed is indescribable. And it's inexplicable. How can a people have so much greed in them that even from the poor, even from those who have nothing, even from them they will suck the last drop of blood? This is not the best of all worlds. This is a world in which freedom is disappearing. This is a world in which slavery is coming back. And we commend Maulana Siddiq Ahmad Nasir for standing up and offering an intellectual challenge to those who today control the world intellectually. What he did and what I am attempting to do, inshaAllah, in offering a critical analysis, in pointing and exposing oppression, in pointing and exposing corruption around the world, we are fulfilling a duty that the Quran has placed upon us, you and I, our Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him, and I hope, Trinidad, you're listening. He said, if you see something wrong, and don't tell me you have not seen Guantanamo, because it's just around the corner. Your government may not see it, because it's not convenient for governments in this part of the world to take a look at Guantanamo. But he said, if you see something wrong, something evil, like that abominable cesspit called Guantanamo, and thank Allah for Dr. Eric Williams, who stood up and demanded the return of Chagaramas. They had a base here in Trinidad called Chagaramas, just close to Venezuela on the north. And if Dr. Williams had not marched in the rain to demand it back, today we might have had in Chagaramas another stinking cesspit. You may not like this violent language of mine, but someone has to be the voice for those who have no voice. If Dr. Williams had not stood up and declared Massa Day done, today Chagaramas might be a stinking cesspit of oppression and torture. Those who see with two eyes say, this is the worst of all worlds, politically and economically as well. How do we break the chains of slavery that is tightening around us? As we proceed with this talk, we'll give you the evidence that the chains of political slavery are tightening. The chains of economic slavery are tightening. Before we proceed to explain that, how do we break these chains? Maulana Siddiq Nasir, in his brilliant presentation, pointed to the necessity of pursuing the spiritual quest. I would use different language. I would say that we need a revolution. I would say that we need an internal revolution. I would say we need an internal spiritual revolution. You don't need to go to Al-Azhar University for that. In fact, that's the last place I'll go for it. Malcolm X never went to Al-Azhar. Malcolm X could not speak Arabic. But Malcolm X was a man who was internally free. He was not a house slave in a White House. No. He was a slave like all the rest of us. But he was a field slave, he said, because inside of him, he was free. And if we are to be a free people, if we are to recover freedom, in order to pursue the quest for political freedom, in order to pursue the quest for economic freedom, which we will be explaining this afternoon, the first thing we have to do, Trinidad and Tobago, is to be internally free, to pursue an internal spiritual revolution. And if your corner church or temple cannot lead you to it, come to Islam. Come to Islam. Come to those who are not afraid to stand up, to point to the oppressor and declare him to be an oppressor. This is not that presentation of Islam that they like in the media, that they like on television. The radio stations love that kind of Islam. Our foreign guests, of course, would not know what I'm talking about. But those who went to school here in Trinidad would know that in ABC, we had a rhyme for that kind of Islam. Pata cake, baker's man. As fast as you can. No. No Trinidad and Tobago. You're not going to get pata cake, baker's man. Not from the students of Maulana Fadl Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah. If you see something wrong, something false, said the Prophet of Allah, change it with your hand. The Security Council of the United Nations could respond anyhow they want. But you cannot change the word of Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Change it with your hand. And we're going to try to do that to the extent that we have the capacity to do it. Change it. If we could do that in Trinidad, we could change this country that is collapsing. We are not a people who judge progress by lofty buildings and multi-million-dollar stadiums. They could do that. But we judge progress with a different measuring rod. We judge progress by the security of the society. How secure are you? Can you go to work and leave your wife at home? We judge progress by the stability of the family. How stable is the family? The stability of the family is dependent not only on marital fidelity, but also upon each partner in the marriage fulfilling his and her responsibilities and duties as a husband, as a wife, and as a father, and most of all, as a mother. If you see something wrong, change it with your hand. And if you can't change it with your hand, then change it with your tongue. Where are their tongues today? Those who believe only in this pata cake, baker's man presentation of Islam. We're not being harsh because we want to belittle them. We're being harsh because we want to wake them up. He said, if you cannot change it with your tongue, then change it with your heart. But you can't go lower than that. That's the lowest stage of faith. The process begins with an internal spiritual revolution. And when that revolution takes place, then you get something in the heart called Noor. We used to have a president in this country called Noor. And when he was president, there was no fire water in the president's house. But I'm talking about Noor, light. A light which is not sold in the stock market. A light which comes from Allah, Most High.